Interview with freedom fighters Susan Walsh and Colin.
Coming up in this interview,
one of the fun facts about the Revolutionary Communist Party is if you actually read their long constitution, which is terrible, I don't wish it upon my worst enemy, but sometimes, you have to you have to bite the bullet.
Uh-huh.
If you actually read through it, they actually advocate ethno-states. So as much as they say they're against the alt-right, and I'm not alt-right, I don't support ethno-states, you don't support ethno-states, I don't think you support ethno-states, Justin. They actually support ethno-states the same as the alt-right. So for as much as they say that they hate the alt-right, they seem awfully like them. They just want to be the ones on top.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with Susan and Colin. Hi.
Hey.
How are we doing? Okay, and today...
This is an interview with Susan Walsh and Colin. Both were dragged into this war against free speech and other civil liberties waged by Antifa, BAMN, Refuse Fascism, and other anti-freedom communists and terrorists. They have a fascinating story to tell about how and why they were dragged into this whole thing, this whole war against civil liberties. But for the purpose of this interview, we're going to be concentrating on the events of September 24th, 2017, the first day of Free Speech Week at UC Berkeley when Milo Yiannoupolos came to speak. Yes, I know that's not his real name, just having fun. But we will get into other subjects over the course of this interview, including some rumors and some facts that you probably have not heard before. So without any further ado, let's get right into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with Susan and Colin. Hi.
Hey.
How are we doing? Okay, and today we are talking on September 25th. I'm going to ask you about yesterday and whatever else we want to talk about. Anyway, both of you folks, you were there yesterday at UC Berkeley to see Milo. One of you got in, I believe the other one did not. Get into Sproul Plaza, which was barricaded. Am I correct in saying so?
That is correct.
So, can you walk me through? We can kind of, well... My audience may not know everything that you experienced there yesterday, Susan. So can you run me through very quickly at first what your experiences were when you showed up? And was there any trouble before, during, after? Any points of interest?
You know what? It was just kind of weird. I mean, it's like there was obviously right in front of Sproul Plaza. That's kind of where everybody congregates, sit there and debate or, do their thing. And I kind of wanted to check it out. I just happened to be right in front of the barriers where it was going to start, and so it's probably like 11:45 at this point, I'm thinking, and then I can see that there's activities of police officers and they're talking about getting it ready and make sure that, he specifically said, make sure there's nothing on this list that you're going to bring through, in there, and so I was like, yeah, I'm good, so I happened to be there, so I mean, I got right in. I did get detained for a couple of metallic things. It wasn't an issue. But I was able to get in, and so I think a lot of people were distracted by the communication or the people in the front. But I mean, 12 o'clock, there was hundreds of people that were prepared and willing and drove for miles. I mean, they drove from all over to sit there and see this, and I couldn't believe, there wasn't a lot of people there. Optically, it doesn't look good, but I'm telling you, as God is my witness, there's hundreds of people that wanted to get in there.
Right, for sure, and there's plenty of video and photos to show that. And when you were at the point when Milo was speaking and you had the camera trained on him, can you tell me, other than what we see in that shot, how packed or crowded was that area? The area inside the barricades.
Well, it wasn't that crowded at all. I mean, seriously, it was ridiculous. I mean, there was only like a handful of people, but I knew there was hundreds of people beyond that wanted to get in, and they weren't able to get in. And it blew me away. Like I said, here's the thing that really strikes this one really gets to me. So the new leaders of like BAM or whatever these little cretins are, they weren't in line after me to come into this event, but all of a sudden they got in. Okay, so Sunsara Taylor's one, the other guy, I don't know his name, Raphael, Raphael.
These are the people with the big no signs and the no t-shirts. I believe they call themselves Refuse Fascism, but more often than not you see just no with an exclamation point.
Yeah,
these people apparently have been around a lot. Sunsara Taylor's actually been on Fox during the Bush Jr. administration, saying the same thing that she says about Trump now. It's like, the end is near, the end is near, the end is near, and we're talking, administrations ago.
Yeah.
The anti-Bush group, The World Can't Wait. Sunsara, first of all, love the T-shirt. Were all the Che Guevara T-shirts gone, so you had to buy the impeached war criminals one?
Well, I think what's happening right now is that from the highest levels of government, Tom DeLay, George Bush, Bill Frist, they are using this case to make a big power grab towards theocracy in this country. It's a very dangerous precedent.
Jesse Jackson, would you put him in that?
Well, I think that this case is very complicated, and it's incited passions on all sides.
Why are you against free speech now? Why are you guys so afraid of Alberto Gonzales, of all people? Why are you afraid of him speaking?
Let's just be clear. You've got to be kidding me. Gonzales and people who think like him, the Bush administration, their mouthpieces in the media speak all the time. But they don't just have free speech to advocate torture. They use, and Gonzales used the state apparatus to institute torture. This was not just a matter of
you guys don't believe in free speech anymore, right? Because anytime someone, let's go through the list.
Is torture? Let me
Jim,
ask you,
no, it's not your show. Jim Gilchrist, Pat Buchanan. We're going down the list, okay? You ready? Jim Gilchrist, Pat Buchanan, David Horowitz, Ann Coulter, Bill Kristol, CIA recruiters, military recruiters are routinely insulted and intimidated on college campuses. Are you tonight going to come out? Are you going to come out and say no? The segment's going to end now if you don't let me finish, because this is what you do on college campuses. Your groups, just wait 1 second, then you'll have plenty of time to speak. Groups like yours, and you appreciate what these students did. These people come to campus because some people want to hear what they have to say. If you want to protest outside. Don't interrupt the speeches. It really seems that the left, which used to be all for free speech, and the ACLU's free speech, everyone gets a say. But when these guys come to campus, you guys can't stand it, and you have to make total fools out of yourself. And embarrass the principled people in the anti-war movement, because I think there are some principled people out there. Are you in favor of storming stages when people who disagree with you speak?
I'm not advocating storming stages.
So you're going to denounce that tonight on this show?
They peacefully stood up.
That's peaceful? Did you see that videotape? Are you kidding me? With our troops who are actually doing the heavy lifting that protects your right to make a total fool out of yourself.
As a communist, are you into separation of powers, church and state?
Well, under any system, the rule of law is important. When we come to power, if we say whatever we say goes, you'd call us totalitarian tyrants, and you'd be right. And when Bush does it, or Bill Frist does it, overriding the courts and all that, that same thing applies. When we come to power, we intend to involve people in the decision-making process.
You foresee yourself in power someday?
Well, I foresee a communist future.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and so I couldn't believe, I mean, it's funny because it's like I would love to splice the press conference the night before with Sunsara Taylor and just running like those fools around. It looked so pathetic, that press conference.
Yes.
And it just happened, and she got arrested right in front of me. I mean, it was like right in front of me, and I was watching this whole thing go down. Like I said, there was nobody there. But the takeaway for this is that how did they get in? How did those three top leaders, you know, Felarca is getting ready to sit there and go away for federal time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And all of a sudden these three can get in. That's the part that just kind of was like a takeaway for me at that time.
So just to be clear, it's not like they were in line a few people behind you or anything, but yet they seem to have come in just a couple of people after you, as far as what I've seen on your live stream, because you started screaming, you know, walking into it, and you know, maybe one or two people came in behind you, I don't know, but all of a sudden they're there doing their chant, marching up to the wall, and etc.
Right.
Now, I think in the video you could clearly see the man standing up there, so it's clear why he was arrested. I don't think we could see Sunsara Taylor on the barriers, or the barricades. Did you witness her getting up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, she was on there.
So that would be why she had either the arrest or the symbolic arrest.
Right. I mean, she's like, it's so funny. Like, she's sitting there crying, and the guy, here's the funny thing, when that guy got arrested, he's like, don't hurt me, don't hurt me, and I'm like, oh my God, you're such a baby, give me a break. I'm yelling, you know, from the crowd, like, give me a break. In fact, like, you're so tough. And I'm watching this whole thing, and the cops are doing, you know, what they need to do. There's no abuse of force there, and he's crying about, I'm like, give me a break.
will stop.
This is free speech. We get killed. This is free speech.
No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Hey, goodbye.
Tactic. It's all tactic.
Right. That's important. It's all tactical. Every time they do anything, they play the victim.
Right.
When I mean, I'm sure you saw it's in your video, I think, of the confrontation trying to get into the BAMN meeting with when Daniel was there and everyone else was trying to get inside. You know, there was, you know, as I think one of them was hitting Daniel, they were saying, "Stop hurting women."
Yeah.
Stop hurting women.
Yeah. I forget her name off the top of my head, but yeah, something with a K.
This is what happens when you don't take your meds.
Your projection is simply a... Hey. Now you're doing illegal shit. Now you're assaulting people. You have a right to be assaulted and that. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. This is a public event. Hey. It's a public event. Hey, it's a public event.
No, it is not.
Yes, it is.
Attacking women.
A public meeting.
Let your
Hey, you just attacked him.
Stop physically assaulting women. Get out of here. Stop physically assaulting women. Stop physically assaulting women. Get out of here. Stop attacking women.
Hey, you just attacked him.
Stop physically assaulting women. Get out of here. Stop physically assaulting women. Stop physically assaulting women. Get out of the fucking door.
But yeah, I know. I noticed that, and it's kind of funny because if we had did you have siblings growing up? Did you ever have siblings that would do that? Like as they're hitting you, they're crying out, "Ma, he's hitting me!" and they're hitting you. It's a lot like that.
Yeah, they pulled that card quick on that one. Look at that. You'll see it.
Yeah. And by the way, Sunsara Driver, looking at it through the lens of child psychology, what happened in that meeting there was a little bit like parents are just letting her have her fit, then they get up and they leave. And then she takes over the room for a while. They go out in the hallway. And then after a while, she gets mad that she doesn't get enough attention. So she goes out in the hallway. And then they're like, all right, we're going to go back in the living room and sit down on the couch. And she says, no, I'm going to occupy the couch. And, you know, very much child psychology stuff going on right there.
Oh, it was classic.
Oh, that was funny.
I enjoyed it. Oh, my gosh. I so enjoyed it. I was laughing hysterically. I loved it. I watched it like 4 times.
Yes.
Because it shows that the UC Berkeley, you know, administration, pathetically, you know, they're sitting there, and they won't even make eye contact. So the nonverbal communication with her standing above them, and all the press is out there in the audience, and I'm sure the press is like, what the heck? You're letting her rule this place?
Yes.
Nonverbal communication is priceless on that.
Yeah.
I would love the nonverbal communication lady to attack that one.
Oh,
So
okay.
I
think I know what you're talking about. She did a video
Yeah.
where she analyzed some of the people, including Base Skywalker and etc.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Huh. I have to go and watch some more of her videos. But yeah, that was amazing. And the utter hypocrisy of them holding a press conference trying to be apologists for their own bureaucratic hurdles for one side, and then they clearly let another side, a far left person, just run over them. And it's just like it's a perfect display of how one-sided they are.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that that's actually real and not just comedy
I know.
gold.
I'm telling you, it's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers here in Berkeley. I swear to God, I feel like that in a movie, you know? It's like, oh, they're one of them, you know? You gotta sit there and do that. This Berkeley is a whole different beast.
I mean, I guess if you want to speak, what you need to do is you need to just wait for, Vice Chancellor to try to give a speech or something, and then just interrupt, and you'll actually get more leeway, more projection, more cameras, more everything.
Yeah.
Then you'll be allowed into in Sproul Plaza after weeks and months of planning and thousands of dollars and permits and everything and student groups. I guess the answer is if Milo wants to do it, next time you should just crash a press conference by the Vice Chancellor and try to speak up.
Yeah.
The other takeaway I have with this is that, like, Ben Shapiro, I really think that, you know, Ben Shapiro is kind of like a safe, you know, conservative or whatever. So I really believe in my heart that they thought, we're going to make Ben Shapiro go through, and then after that, you know, we're done. We fulfilled our obligation.
Right.
For conservative speech, we're good.
Yeah,
And
they had
see,
their
that's
token.
where-
Yeah. It's like that was the token Republican or a token, I mean, I don't know if he's really Republican as much as Libertarian. I really don't know Ben Shapiro's politics too much, but yeah, he's sort of moderate. It's just he happens to have this crazy reputation because I believe he just has this ability to cut through bullshit and whip out a lot of facts. And, I think he's just too challenging. It's not that he's radical. He's just too much of a challenge for them.
Yeah.
So
I'd explain that too. I'd actually be curious how much persuasive power Ben has compared to Milo. So it's, I guess I consider myself more of a classical libertarian until February 1st when I had my brow split, fingers broken, and all that. The thing is, Ben marshals a lot of facts, but, rhetorically speaking, he's not the most persuasive person. He talks very fast. He talks sort of, he talks down to you from a sort of elitist position. So he sort of himself as an elitist, and he's unapologetic for it. He's a Harvard-educated lawyer. His wife's a doctor, and he never ceases to mention that in any of his speeches, including the one we were at. And love the guy. It's great that he's achieved all that, but he doesn't sort of speak to the common man, and he doesn't try to, and he doesn't make any bones about that. And so and he likes to sort of use humiliation, which as smart as Socrates was, how many people did he convince, and how much hemlock did he end up drinking at the end of his life?
Right.
You take someone like Milo, for instance, who's a lot more of a bomb thrower, but he's a lot more, as his book says, dangerous.
Yeah.
Because he actually has a lot more sort of rhetorical ability to pull people in and sort of weave a narrative and actually sort of challenge tropes and actually make people listen, I think, rather than get turned off and say, this is just sort of another elitist guy who has lots of facts, but he's mean.
Right.
Yeah, well, like I said, he's the nuclear weapon. As an ex-California Democrat, he's the nuclear weapon. For this town. I mean, he is like, it's crazy. He's the one. He is the messenger for this. So.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you guys, I've not formally studied Jungian psychology, or, you don't really have to know Jungian psychology, but it's a certain role that people and symbols and fictional characters take on. Some call it the trickster, etc. That certain role. I think he plays that role because he has that unpredictable quality. He also has this sense of I can say anything, because it's not like he has a reputation to tarnish. He's sort of groundless in that sense. Somebody like Ben Shapiro, his reputation gets ruined too much, he actually is financially in trouble. Whereas, no matter what Milo does, he's still going to just gain power, no matter how much people scream against him, But anyway, I'm drifting off the topic, but he does seem to fit into that archetype of the trickster, in the tarot cards, it would be the fool card or the joker card in, poker, the wild card, basically.
Yeah.
Or in tarot, he'd be like chaos or something. Creative destruction is what Milo is. He destroys and creates. Shiva, both destruction and creation. Not to go again too far off topic, but there's a TV series I think that people could watch that's really timely. It's not Game of Thrones. It's American Gods, originally written by Neil Gaiman. Amazing book. But Showtime is doing a series of it. But the entire point is the narratives control the world, and as people believe in things, they gain more and more power and all that kind of stuff. So one of the characters, Anansi, the African spider trickster, who preaches as a character, and Milo seems sort of like him par excellence. But they have a leprechaun who's about the tricks too. And that's where the power is. Loki. Anyways.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I can pick up what you're putting down there. Yeah. Okay. So go ahead.
So, Sunsara Taylor, she was detained or whatever, but then apparently I talked to people and they walked her back out to where there's there was only one metal detector station, and then they let her go. So, it's like that's what happened with her. So they basically detained her, but took her.
No, I think you guys were alluding to the fact, and if not, then I'll allude to the fact. I think that, if Fellarca does go away for a while, then maybe she'll be the new face, I suppose, because she doesn't, and you notice that she has almost the same cadence and tonality as Fellarca when she talks. It's very similar, very, very similar.
And the best part I think it was is several times when Milo was speaking, he basically told her, and I'm like right behind her pretty much, and he's like, "Come up here, come talk to me, come talk." Oh,
that's who he was saying that to, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
And she was like, you could see her in her face. She was just like mortified. No, I can't go up there. All they can. I'm sorry. I won't swear. I'm sorry. Bad. Sorry. All they can do is reiterate that stupid chant. That's all they can do. But you sit there and you put them to pressure. Give me a fact. Give me a policy. Give me something to go up. Right. And they shut down. It's like they're zombies. It's Invasion of the Body Snatchers here in Berkeley. Swear to God. I'm not a big fan of this town. It looks all peachy. Right. We other ponies, unicorns, and guess what? It's a whole different dimension. It's really weird.
So I've actually had personal interactions with both of them. I was undercover with BAM, obviously. I have an article coming out in Red Elephants as soon as that gets edited, and I've done live streams on that. So Yvette Felarca definitely knows me. She called me by name after the Ben Shapiro event. I gave her the name of Ryan, but she saw me at Ben Shapiro, and she made sure to say, "Hi, Colin." Make sure she knew that she doxed me. But I'd also met Sunsara Taylor I'm not sure this has been covered. She's Refuse Fascism, but she's also a member of the Revolutionary Communist Party.
Oh, that's another.
No, I didn't know that.
Revolutionary Communist Party, look it up.
People.
Yeah, well, she was off my radar until yesterday. Or no, the day before yesterday.
She's an avowed member of it. And, one of the fun facts about the Revolutionary Communist Party is if you actually read their long constitution, which is terrible, I don't wish it upon my worst enemy, but sometimes, you have to you have to bite the bullet. You actually read through it, they actually advocate ethno-states. So as much as they say they're against the alt-right, and I'm not alt-right, I don't support ethno-states, you don't support ethno-states, I don't think you support ethno-states, Justin. They actually support ethno-states the same as the alt-right. So for as much as they say that they hate the alt-right, they seem awfully like them. They just want to be the ones on top. But in terms of comparing the two, though, I wanted to get this out there. To me, Yvette Felarca is far smarter than Sunsara Taylor. Sunsara Taylor has relied on her looks and relied upon her
screechy voice.
Screechy voice.
Screechy voice. They both have. You have to have a screechy voice to be a member of those organizations. that's number one.
Right. And a certain amount of chutzpah, as they say.
Yeah, and chutzpah. But Sunsara is dumb enough to think that Americans want communists. She's dumb enough. They're going to accept something called the Communist Party. Yvette's not. Yvette's smart enough to realize that if she wants to gain members, and you look at BAM, you look at you look at the Revolutionary Communist Party, there's obviously a body difference. Yvette's much smarter, much savvier, and much better at media relations, and much better at managing that stuff. And that's why, as I said, I think Sunsara is just sincerely wrong, and just wrong-headed on economics and everything like that. Yvette is leading a cult and knows what she's doing.
No, Yvette's more like Charles Manson. Charles Manson was that type that had that charismatic personality. Yvette Felarca is like Charles Manson in my world, the female version.
Yeah.
Agreed. That's how I see her.
And as Colin alludes to, there's certainly that cult thing going on there with probably Shant the Driver, believe on down. Cults tend to sometimes have somebody right below the leader who is partially totally brainwashed by the cult, but still has the ability to turn around and do it to other people. I don't really know the ins and outs of that group, but I would be willing to bet that Shant the Driver does have certain powers over her, and then she has a lot of power over other people.
Well, again,
it's just the impression I get.
But they prey to at-risk youth.
Yes.
So they find and recruit at-risk youth. They control things. They reward them. They have different levels. I mean, this is a whole different playing field. This isn't just like people, your average nurses and doctors running together hoping we love with this organization. No, they target people in society that may not have that family structure, may not have that support system, and that is who they sit there and draw in to do these evil things.
And you can kind of see it because when they show up with adolescents, sometimes confused adolescents that don't seem to know why they're really there.
Right. And is that they don't sit there and speak out. You can look at them. I've talked to them, and they won't answer your questions. I mean, they are so indoctrinated to that propaganda that they won't sit there and say, I can't talk to you. No, they'll just sit there and, look away, but they don't want to offend Felarca,
Yeah, which is something that you would expect either from a child of an abusive parent or parental, guardian, or a member of a cult, I've read at least enough about the mechanics of cults, and I don't know if you folks have read that letter that was supposedly, allegedly from a former member that put out and described what they did to him. All the tactics are there. Food deprivation, cutting them off from their loved ones, all that. It's all there. You know, it's just not a religion, it's politics, but it's still a belief system, I suppose, you know, so it's a quasi-religious cult.
No doubt.
Scary. I really do hope that they get to the bottom of that, because, you know, really, it's another level of harm. It's not like, as you said, it's not just like Refuse Fascism is this group and they all agree with it, and so they find each other. I mean, this is a cult. It's a whole other level of just unethical behavior. Yeah, and preying on minors. You know, a lot of these people are clearly under age. You know, you can see it. You know, the bodies of teenage kids being thrown, like last summer, the bodies of teenage kids being thrown like cannon fodder at people who are genuinely, in that case, genuinely white power skinhead tough guys who had knives and etc. I mean, that was one of the few times where Antifa and BAMN in the United States have actually gone against the people that they claim to be fighting. And you just don't get adolescents to be going up against guys like that. That was dangerous and irresponsible. And a few of them got stabbed, unfortunately. Well, I don't wish that upon anybody.
Yeah, and they don't care. They don't care about the people. They really don't. They pretend. They give this falsehood about how they sit there and care and bring in the family. I mean, this whole thing is a cult. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is a cult. Please, people, do your research. The way these people, you look at them when they're doing their little protest. And what they do, and they have different levels of responsibilities. Yeah. But you talk to them, and you come at them passionate. Like, if I talk to people, I come at them low, you know, and I'm not in their face, out, you know, being aggressive. But they won't talk. They're like zombies. I mean, literally, they are zombies. They won't say anything. Sit there and say, I can't talk to you. Okay. They just look away. They do their thing. I mean, it's a trap.
Yeah. I'm going to go a level above and say not only do they not care, they actually actively want those innocents, they actively want minors, and they actively want the bodies to be pushed, to be stabbed, to bleed, because they know how to play the victim mindset. Yeah. They get to play the victim card. They have one card, they play it in situations inappropriate and appropriate, and so they're in their best when they actually can play the victim card. So honestly, I think they went to deal with like those traditional worker party, you know, Heimbach, whatever, you know, I'm certainly no fan of them. But, you know, they clearly knew what they were doing, went there to assault them with the flagpoles, and they, you know, actually were happy, I bet, in their own twisted way, that they got stabbed, because they could show and prove themselves that, quote-unquote, the Nazis were stabbing them. The night of long knives, Nazis and knives, oh my God, it's happening. Right. I mean, you know, you want to go with Charles Manson, you know, he was telling them the reason that they were murdering the Tates and the Lebyancas was to start Helter Skelter, the race war. Yes. It was for a greater purpose, and so this is the same thing. Spot on. This is the same thing.
For so it's good. For the collective, and it's a collectivist thing as opposed to an individualist thing that we're talking about here.
That's correct. Yeah. And so I'm going to also add this to you. I think this is funny. It's like I'm an ex-California Democrat. I was indoctrinated with the Democrats. All right. So if anybody, and it's kind of tripped out on this the other night. If anybody had ever told me 30 years from now you would be a conservative, you'd be a Republican or what have you, and you'd be like, you know, fighting for freedom of speech at the UC Berkeley campus, I would have thought you're crazy. Against the regressive left. Yeah. My people. I mean, seriously, that was like it's crazy what's happening here.
I agree. We live in strange times, and I mean, the same thing. Me in the past, if I would go, I'm sorry, the other way around. If I could go back in time and tell myself 10 years ago that in 10 years' time, you'll have the media calling free speech rallies far-right rallies, and people will be calling you a Nazi simply because you say you stand for everyone's civil liberties, not just certain people's civil liberty. The whole thing is insane. I mean, down to the point of violence being committed at places named after a man who stood for nonviolence. Martin Luther King Jr., rest his soul, great man, is Martin Luther King Jr. Civic Center Park and the Student Union Building committing violence. I mean, Colin, you were I think it was right there at the Student Union, Martin Luther King Student Union building that you were attacked, right?
That's correct.
The irony of that. Amazing. And in a place that was the birthplace or the cradle of the free speech movement or the civil rights, well, not the civil rights movement, but the free speech movement, now being the den of the anti-free speech movement.
And please remember, too, like, George Soros' son is affiliated with UC Berkeley, okay? So you got some players here you need to sit there and focus on.
Right.
And you got Napolitano. So with Jim Napolitano on the board of directors there.
Right.
So they got audited like 6 months ago. And $1.7 million was rat-holed away, right? And so they got busted on that. So when UC Berkeley sits there and says, "Oh, it cost us $800,000," what a photo op! My as a California taxpayer, it's like, okay, excuse me, $1.75 million you got busted on for some bogus BS program for internet security. Give me a break. Absolutely give me a break. There's some key players here. George Soros' son is affiliated with this program. Jen Napolitano, board of directors. And there's one other I'm missing. I know I'm missing one more. That is like kind of like questionable. I mean, you have to sit there and look at these people. Look at these people. They're trying to sit there. I mean, they are protecting and coveting this. This is like in BAM and all this no fascism and stuff. These people, this is like, I can't tell you, it's like, it feels like it's so evil here, you know. And I'm a California, like I said, California Democrat. But when you're here and you're on that campus, these people are like zombies. They're being manipulated. What I see is just, it's just mind-blowing for what's happening. But these people are covering for each other. The mayor, the police chief, the police. I mean, they're all in bed with each other, and it needs to come out and needs to be exposed.
Yeah, and I believe it's happening, but if not, I mean, not that we shouldn't keep pushing for this to happen, but yes, it needs to be exposed to the rest of the nation, if not the world, because this is, it's so unbelievable. It's truth is stranger than fiction kind of material here, you know? That's why I think this would make a great Hollywood movie, you know, or a novel.
I mean, you want to get into it, like, you know, I know Trow Worden, president of Berkeley College Republicans. He's a skinny guy, very respectful. He likes to talk about Hegel and likes to talk about, Nietzsche and, debating philosophers. I mean, not very. He was served on UC campus for supposedly assaulting Yvette Felarca for, an order of protection that he had to stay, like, I think 100 feet away from, or other things, on his campus. Yeah. She doesn't. Not a student. She's not a teacher. She goes to school. She teaches at a school in Berkeley, but somewhere else. And yet here he is, like, standing up for these things, and and facing, like, facing being served on his campus, and restricting his rights to move on his campus. I mean, that's absurd. And again, it goes into their entire, victim mentality and their entire martyrdom complex. And it's this martyrdom cult essentially is what they want. And it's this self-abnegation and.
Well, it was working for them for a long time, but the more people expose it, the more people sit there and shame it, it comes out. It's going to fester. It's going to happen. So, more people need to sit there and step up and expose this stuff because they got away with this stuff for so long, and we're done with this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank goodness it is starting to seep up to the national level of the news. Go ahead.
Federal levels. Jeff Sessions, actually, the case that's coming out is that Jeff Sessions is going to sit there. It looks like he's going to sit there and open up a federal investigation, which is going to sit there and crack this nut open. So I am so excited. I can't wait. If there was a press conference that I'm so excited to sit there and, like, I will probably lose it. I mean, jumping up and down because it's like I've seen and witnessed so much egregiousness here in Berkeley. And Jeff Sessions, he's alluded to the fact that, we're going there. We're going to sit there and crack open this nut. Potentially the federal funding is gone. This whole thing, this insidious, like, collusion that's happening with all the mayor, the Burke. I mean, we are opening. And for the record, I am not suicidal, so I want to make sure I get that out.
I'm loving life.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Suicidal.
Same with me too. It's funny. Years ago, I used to tell people that the way that I want to die, it's one of those conversations, how would you like to die? My answer has always been, well, I want to be I want to be made to disappear because I'm causing too much trouble for the establishment, right? Now, fast forward, and it's like it's almost like the left and right have switched places, or at least they have in many places. And it's like, imagine if, you're probably I'm probably more likely to get to just disappear because of the trouble that I give the city of Berkeley than I am for the deep state. We were alluding to the deep state earlier. I don't know if that was on record or off record. I believe it was off record, but yeah. And then also the fact that people these days. People that would normally be like, oh, the CIA has been conducting secret wars for decades and COINTELPRO and all that kind of stuff and the Bay of Pigs. Now they're just like, oh, the CIA is good because Trump doesn't like them. Amazing stuff. We live in strange, strange times.
If I can just go back, I would like to say, as hardened as Susan is, I'm a little skeptical, but I'm hopeful because Jeff Sessions was attacked for not standing up for civil rights. And so I'm hoping and taking this as an opportunity and a challenge to actually show on the record that he is a strong supporter of civil rights and investigates this as a civil rights thing. Because the thing is, they've said he's not very good on civil rights. And I hope Secretary Sessions sees this as an opportunity to show everyone that he is a civil rights champion, and that's what I'm most hopeful for.
Yeah, I hope for everyone's sake that he's opportunistic about this, even Machiavellian. If he wants to make a name being a civil rights, being a dogged defender of civil rights, so be it.
And if he wants to be Machiavellian, fine. Or if he just wants to be a good person that believes in civil rights and shows everyone that he's not what they said he was, that he actually believes in civil rights. I think this is a great opportunity for Secretary Sessions to set the record straight and show that he's a strong supporter of civil rights, and that's what I'm most hopeful for.
Well, and if you read his press conference or his little blurb today, it's
the
like he's
going
to talk about Berkeley, so
yes,
it's a good thing. And so I also want to sit there and add to this. It's very important that the organization, the Berkeley Patriots, they had to sit there and make a life or death call basically on this whole event. Right.
We're talking about the first day of Free Speech Week.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, they had to sit there and they're up against so much. The school screwed them over. They gave them these unrealistic deadlines, and there's communications there. So it'll all eventually come out. But one person had to sit there and make, that call. And I appreciate the call that he made because he could potentially, there's lives that could have been lost here. He had to sit there and assess everything that was happening, who was going to be there, what the issues were. And so as a human being, I appreciate Mike Wright because he sits there and he knows more than I can share with you. But you know what? He made a good decision, and guess what? Things happen for a reason, and I can't sit there and emphasize that enough. Things happen for a reason. And guess what? Jeff Sessions is coming in on Tuesday, which I'm so thrilled about because there's nobody's life was lost. So I think that's a true leader. And I hate to see the Berkeley Patriots being, they've dealt with so much garbage in the last, many months dealing with Milo and the UC staff trying to sit there and make this happen. So, if push comes to shove, you're going to save human life. Mike Wright saves human life.
Yeah, I definitely respect that decision, just the same as I respected Joey Gibson's or the Patriot Prayer's decision to call off that rally because of the safety of people. You don't want people getting hurt.
It's easy to sit there and look back on it. But, if it's hold to you, Justin, and someone sits there and says, well, we've got some security issues here. Are you going to sit there and pull that card for this, or are you going to sit there and look out for the best interest of the people? I want the leaders that look out for the best interest of the people, and not to be self-glorifying themselves.
Right. If a person wants to put themselves in danger, that's their own their own individuality, their own autonomy to be able to do that. But you don't want to do that to other people if you can avoid
having survived the first Milo of Berkeley.
We're both
right. Having first time I broke bones actually was from hostile action from mass terrorists, and I still hope that from cult terrorists, whatever you want to call them, but the Black Bloc Antifa. I got that just defending an innocent life that had already taken severe head injuries.
Are we talking about February 1st?
Yeah.
You
So
had a-
Eddie Stock.
We both were there.
Yeah, we were there.
You actually had broken bones?
Yeah, I broke bones for blocking sticks coming from overhead. So I had my hand here, and they were coming down this way. So I was blocking the blows, and luckily they were very bad shots because they got 10, 15 on the noggin, and luckily I have a fairly strong head, and luckily they had terrible form, and you know my fingers took some of the brunt further up the stick because you have more force at the end, and you have less force further up.
Right.
So I managed to blunt most of the stuff, but then they tried to gouge the eye out there, and then I went to the ground and had to try to scramble some monkey grab peach, and that's what got me off of the ground. I had to grab between the legs and pull myself up off of two of my assailants. So anyway, I've said that in further detail at the Dan Siegel thing, but
yeah. And the thing that sucks is, like, for me, it's like February 1st, I never heard of Antifa until February 2nd. And then I binge watched all about Antifa. But I still haven't seen Milo speak. My lifelong goal is to sit there and be able to hear Milo speak.
Right.
In the chair. That's all I want. I'm looking at, this is a whole year of this. That's all I want. Is it so much to ask? I mean, I was really hoping I'd see him speak, but it didn't happen, and I'm just blown away.
All right. Wow. Well, sometime, Colin, I want to ask you in more detail about February 1st, and the same thing with you, Susan. But now, Colin, you never actually got in yesterday, right?
I never got in. I was out there. I broke bones. I shed blood for free speech on Sproul Plaza. You better believe I was enthusiastic.
But not yesterday.
Not yesterday. So again, you want to talk improvement. The last time there were mass terrorists, hundreds of them. Demo was there and barely made it out alive. I was injured, bones broken, and no speech. This time, no speech, but no bones broken. So I got closer to Milo. I didn't get in there to him. I was closer to him. So baby steps. Maybe the rest of my life will be continuing to get half the distance, and I'll be like Pareto's paradox, where I'll never
where you could only. Yeah.
So
that's funny.
Outside, I was giving interviews. People wanted to have policy things. I had my MAGA hat on, and so that was just like a red cape in front of a bowl to people.
Yeah.
And so I was
like garlic to the
vampires, but they they were like, oh, how can you support this, blah blah blah, and I was giving policy based discussions of people, and they just couldn't believe me knocking their straw men down and actually answering questions on an intelligent way about how the MAGA agenda, how Bannonomics, how all these things hold together and actually make America a stronger, better nation and all that. And so I was just hitting these questions, and I kept trying to get to the line, and the line wasn't forming, and there wasn't people there, and they weren't letting people in at that point, so I just kept going back for more. And then by the time I was ambling over there and still doing TV interviews, I gave 4 or 5 interviews to different publications and various other things. I was trying to be in line. It wasn't moving. They weren't letting people in. They artificially limited the number of people in there, and I just never got in. And I didn't, I was barely aware that he was there. I was just trying to amble the line. There was no announcement he was there. There was no notification so that you should actually get in there. No time given for people to realize that he was there to try to file in and spend an hour. It was most people in the square weren't even aware that he was in there. There were so many more MAGA hats. I was handing out T-shirts. There were 200 T-shirts we had.
Oh, that was the box that you had, I guess.
Yeah, if you see me, I had a box. I had a box of T-shirts, everything from Defund Milo or Defund Berkeley to Team Milo to all sorts of things. And 200 T-shirts went fast. A lot of my friends came later. They had and they were asking, "Did you save a shirt for me?" I said, "I don't know. I had 200 shirts. I thought it would be plenty, but we had we gave them out, and to people I hadn't met, people I had met, people I barely knew, some people." And we just kept coming, and most people weren't even aware that he was in the square to get there, much less the people in line, much less that. We had so many hundreds of people that were there.
Yeah.
We outshowed the left. We outshowed the opposition.
Yeah.
And people in line didn't get in. People out of line didn't get in. No one knew what was going on, and it was over before it happened. It was just complete debacle.
Yeah.
And I have another comment, too.
Yeah.
You're on, so I never knew that I would look now when they laid out barricades in front of the Milo, Sproul Plaza with Mark Savio place. I'd sit there and look and see, is this filled with sand or water, right? Because I've been to these rallies where Antifa sits there and cuts them open or flips them over and drains the water.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there in it, like, I am like, this is crazy. I'm questioning their security. Should know this, but it's like, is it full? How much water is in there? You know, because I don't trust them. And they are dereliction of duty for what their responsibilities are.
Yes.
So I sit there and sit there and look outside the box because I don't trust them.
Yeah. And I believe it was water this time because there were little puddles of water around them.
Yes.
Certain barriers there, so yeah, it was probably water, which is
sand. I was hoping for sand.
Right. But that would mean that they would learn from a past pattern what to. But that's asking too much.
I know.
Oh goodness.
For me, is I had a defund Berkeley shirt on, and that just caused so many people to ask me.
I have one.
Oh,
I'll wear it tomorrow.
Yeah, but when I was giving interviews, nothing got people more riled than like, "Are you a student here? How dare you defund Berkeley?" Blah 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 blah. And I was like, well, okay. So there's two choices. One, they're like, they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for security. How can you think about taking away our student tuition for this? Yada yada yada. I'm like, well, I pay taxes, so I pay something to do it. They're like, well, you don't pay as much as we do. It's going up, and those are fair points. That, tuition has been going up. Those, I'm not going to deny facts. I actually am a fact-based sort of person.
Right.
But I was like, okay, well, the thing is, the university insists on maintaining a monopoly of violence. And, I had, one student that said, well, what do you mean by monopoly of violence? Clearly because he'd read his, John Stuart Mills, or he'd read the Locke, or the other sort of Enlightenment thinkers that had brought it up, and he thought he was going to catch me out just throwing out a phrase. So I went through a very dry treatise of a description of how the monopoly of violence is, essentially how the state, maintains it so that we don't murder each other in tribal institutions and all that. And essentially, because of that, either Berkeley can spend the money and keep us safe and do that, and they maintain a monopoly of violence, or we can form militias, we can all be armed, and we can do that. I didn't want that, but I was like, that's the option. So what do you choose? And he just sort of left speechless and angry. Because he wasn't expecting me to actually break down. You either have two choices. One, we act as a civilized society, we pay police to do the violence for us. Or we break down into armed factions, and we all devolve into tribal politics and make it look like Mogadishu.
Right. Yeah. Now I'm the kind of person where I lean towards libertarianism, but I do understand that there's certain that if you just say remove the police, then people would just be at each other's throat. We're not at that point yet, etc. So I've always been more of a punk, anti-establishment kind of person. However, I do understand that cops are needed and etc. But in a situation where the cops are not protecting certain people of the community, it's almost like you're forcing them to ramp it up and start walking around. Well, I guess you can't really do, I don't know if you can carry guns in Berkeley, for example, but militias.
No, on the campus, no, not on the college campus, no.
Right.
Not given concealed weapons permit.
It's not allowed.
So, I mean, let's be fair here to talk about other events. Base Stickman, Kyle Chapman, it resulted because he saw among, I wasn't very famous. Kiara Robles, a friend of mine, is far more famous. She was the blonde woman in the red hat. It wasn't even
the gay. She's
the gay, the gay
lesbian.
The
Trump supporter.
Lesbian Trump supporter Kiara Robles wasn't even wearing a "Make America Great Again" hat. It was a "Make
Bitcoin Great Again." Yeah. Because
she's a cryptocurrency enthusiast. She's such a geek. She wore a "Make Bitcoin Great Again." She's great. She's super smart. She's great. And she got pepper sprayed. And so as a result of that, Kyle Chapman said, well, if the police won't do their job, if the police will retreat, will do that kind of thing, then it becomes incumbent upon us to provide our own security, which again goes to the evolution of if the state monopoly on violence starts to erode, then, and this is the problem with anarchism, there is never a void. The void gets filled by something. And so this got filled by Kyle Chapman, who, he may have committed many flaws in the past, but I can't fault the man for carrying, the flagpole he did, which is a flagpole on his freedom of expression anyways, and the Billy law is made ridiculous to construe anything as a club. But he used it because he was attacked by multiples of people.
Yes.
I mean, it's, the thing that's lost is he wasn't carrying it and LARPing for no reason. When he was attacked by the skateboarders on the promo for the April 15th, he was attacked by 10 people.
Yeah.
And that's totally justified.
Yeah.
And don't get why they get off on saying that he was unjustified and not arresting the guy who pulled the knife on him, which is the reason he had that in the first place.
Right. And they basically did a hyena thing
Yeah.
on him. They just surrounded him. They were going to pick at him, and they were going to charge him and nip at him. And so, he defended himself. But going back to what you were saying just a minute ago, Colin, I think many of us had the same thought after February 1st. I said, well, I'm not really a martial artist. I'm not a young guy. I'm not an athlete. But somebody has to go to the next rally and just protect these people. Like, somebody has to do the non-aggression principle, don't attack but defend innocent people, and lo and behold, people independently thought that. Because I don't think Kyle communicated with the, I won't say their names, but the other people who came there ready to defend other people. They just all...
For the record, he came on his own initiative.
Right.
He came on his own initiative. He realized what this whole thing in Berkeley was, with this whole climate. So originally, on his own initiative, he wasn't with anybody. Nobody knew him. Nobody.
Yeah.
He was looking to defend people. That's it.
He just was there to protect innocent life and protect people against, vicious assaults they weren't prepared for. Like I said, not to allude too much, and you can get into the interview. I'm also friends with Kiara if you want to interview for that, and Eddie, who I saved too. I'm in contact with both of them. But I took on 4 of them barehanded when they had sticks. I would have killed for a stick at that point because I barely got out of there alive. My head nearly got smashed on the steps of Sprout. So I can't fault Kyle Chapman for carrying, the equal level of force of what they were bringing.
Yeah.
Not above equal level of force.
Right.
Which is the force continuum is fully legal.
Right. It's not that he was escalating anything at all. He is just there to defend.
He was there to equalize even.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. They want to sit there and they really want to sit there and send a message. In this town, it's so corrupt and everything. They really want to. They look at him like we're going to sit there and take him out.
Yeah.
So I really feel bad for him. Basically, Kyle, he's a good guy and he had a history. And nobody here has the baggage. Everybody's got baggage. So let's just sit there and say that this person is, oh my God, they got felonies. You know what? I was an ex-California Democrat. I'm okay with people that are ex-convicts, and there's issues. I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
But you know what? He looked out in the best interest of human life.
Yes.
And that is essential to this. So they're trying to hijack this whole thing, and just know that the Alameda County court system is it's what's the word for that? The Alameda County courts are ridiculous because they're corrupt. There's these BAMN members, Yvette Felarca gets a restraining order against Trow Worden, okay?
Yeah.
Insane war. Just do your research. Trow Worden is what, 120 pounds?
30 maybe?
I think I've
Soaking
never
wet.
heard him swear, and he doesn't really drink or do drugs or anything.
Right.
And Yvette
Snazzy
Felarca
dresser.
a restraining order against him. Let's be real here, folks.
Yeah.
I've had 5-year-olds hug me harder than Troy.
It's ridiculous. That court system's toxic.
Right. But you get $175,000 bail for a stick. And so, another point. I'm somewhat familiar with laws and reading case law and all that. I talked a little bit about that at the Clanton hearing, which is part of why I got on Antifa's radar.
Yeah.
But I've done martial arts with sticks and all that. I thought about bringing some of my extremist sticks. I didn't because I knew of the Billy law in California, which is a felony. It is a felony to carry anything that is a Billy. And a Billy is essentially anything that you can use to strike someone with. Now, supposedly it depends if it has a handle, but it's just whatever. And so the thing is about Kyle, having a history. It's because he had a history is the only reason, that it was sort of a sunk cost there to some degree, and also that he was willing to step out on that kind of stuff. So I find myself trying to adhere to these crazy laws which are only enforced against one side and not enforced against the other side because again. He brought maybe a 3.5 foot, flagpole. I was hit with a 5 foot flagpole, 6 foot flagpole, 1.5 inches across. The thing was giant. His was smaller, and they charged him $175,000 for I think it was a curtain rod. for carrying a curtain rod that he put a flag on. It was a flagpole too.
It was like a closet dowel.
Yeah.
It was a closet dowel. So.
Yeah, closet dowel. So for getting a closet dowel, $175,000 bill compared to Eric Clanton, who whacked someone with a bike lock, actually did damage, actually did it unprovoked, and he got a bail of what was it, $100,000? Maybe it was $80,000. I think it was $100,000. So Kyle got more for just simple possession versus grievous bodily harm. I mean, that should tell you everything.
And that's why people need to sit there and go after that district attorney there in Alameda County. They need to sit there and hold these people accountable.
Yes.
People everywhere in the nation needs to sit there and help us here in California, because Berkeley is in this hot mess. But these laws are being breached for this and that.
Yeah.
They're just fluid.
Yeah.
And we need people to sit there and really focus here in California. I mean, California is, like I said, for Trump, the campaign, it was do or die for the nation, okay? So, but California this time, this election, is so important because these guys are running rampant here. And there's so many conservatives, and I know so many California Democrats that support Trump. They won't go on record, but there's thousands of them.
Yeah.
That we need help cleaning up the swamp here. And cleaning up the swamp is going to bat, to sit there and talk to these district attorneys and sit there and say, why are you charging a kid that's 125 pounds, who's never, doesn't swear, doesn't drink, he's never actually had a conversation with her, and she was able to get a restraining order, which in my town that would never have happened. I mean, you have to sit there and show just cause. I mean, it has to be documented.
And a pattern. It's a very pervasive and very easily documentable pattern going on here. And that's the thing that baffles me is how can they engage in the emails that Milo put out that we could all see? How can they knowingly write these things and then think, oh, I'll get away with this, and just lie? What makes them think that they won't get exposed? Is that it's crazy. It's okay, when I caught the assistant advisor to Mayor Jessie Aragoon, when I got her on the phone, and she's telling me, I watched from the window, I saw the whole thing, and I can tell you Antifa did not march into the park with their weapons and boxes and etc. No, that didn't happen. But it's it's on video. What makes you think that you're not going to be exposed right now? Wow. Yeah. Baffles my mind. And it's is it possibly that they're not actually that smart and that they're getting, that they're up there in academia just simply by playing along and not by actually, developing their intellects as they go?
Yeah, the corruption is so deep here, and that's one of the first videos you were on my radar with, and I'm like, I like this guy. He's sitting there pushing back on Antifa and this whole, propaganda thing.
And by the way, if you guys knew how much time I spend on the phone just not getting people to answer, just to get one or two good ones. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Thanks.
I mean, you are on the radar for all of the YouTube people that I see, for your stuff that you put out, to sit there and keep it real, to educate about Antifa and what's going down. I mean, I really appreciate all that you do.
Thanks. And let's give Tabby some credit, too, because behind the scenes, she's finding these people in social media and helping me do what I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's teamwork. It's teamwork. We all have to be together. I mean, we're fighting like hell in California, and they get pissed off when they sit there and hear people that are like, give up on California. It's like, no, you guys don't understand. This model, this scenario is coming to your town, your state, okay?
Yeah.
So we need to snuff this out here.
I mean, we see what's happening in Portland and even in Eugene, the town that, Tabby and I lived in, and Oregon's probably next if California goes,
I've been to Oregon, I know. Well,
yeah. But, I mean, we've seen what's happened in Portland. It's almost as bad as Berkeley. It's not quite there yet, but the people there, they have that far left entrenchment there for sure. Same thing with Eugene. It's just Eugene's a smaller town, so. But, yeah, I mean, it's not, you can't just get rid of California and then be done with it. It's not going to work like that.
Again, and we propagate these crazies, and they end up being, your Maxine Waters and your Nancy Pelosi. So we need to sit there and snuff these people out here in California. Otherwise, guess what, people? These people become your nightmare here.
Yeah.
Because they go to Washington, D.C.
Right.
It's very simple.
Beyond that, we have 38 million people in the state. what is Nevada? It's 8 million, I think. All it takes to tip the balance, and it's already sort of purple or something. Add another million, gone. Idaho, I think, is maybe 3-4 million. Add 2 million, gone. We could take out the entire Mountain West with and still have half the population of California. Still have what is that? 19 million people in California, which is probably closer to what we should be having here, and basically turn the entire country blue. So first of all, there's that. I just would like to say that to anyone that says write off California. We have too many people to write off. We're and the thing is, people are getting priced out. We're going to move. But the second thing I wanted to say, to go back a little bit, what we're seeing here in California, why you were asking about why they thought they could get away with it, it's because indoctrination is a hell of a drug. Okay, they're cult. Indoctrination is a hell of a drug. It is the return of separate but equal. There's parallel systems of justice. They actually believe that it is just for one person to get one verdict, one person to get another verdict, and we're seeing these mass, and that's what it is. It's civil rights violations of separate but equal, of people getting two parallel tracks of justice and all that, and that is what is so terrifying.
It makes me think of privilege, the Latin word private law. There's a certain law for them and certain law for the other people.
Right, and that's just what I wanted to say. It's we're literally seeing the ugly head of civil rights violations, and just the left wants to warn about civil rights violations cropping up. What's right here in your backyard? When it applies to me, it's going to come for you. Was it not Martin Niemöller said first it came for the trade unionists? Then they came for the socialists, and I said nothing. And then they came for the Jews, and I said nothing. And then they came for the Christians, and I said nothing. And when they came for me, no one was left to speak for me.
Exactly.
Right.
That's so relevant. What's going on here in Berkeley?
Yes, it is.
Again, I can't reiterate this enough. This court system that they're dealing with is corrupt. It's toxic. It's polluted. Not enough people are calling to demand. Why did you give Trow Worden, this little kid, Yvette Felarca's got a restraining order against Trow Worden? Are you serious, really? Nobody's calling. If people were calling in masses, if people were joined together to circle around like they do, to sit there and say, this is unjust, this is not fair, if these calls are going in, they might sit there and think about it. But these guys are all interconnected here in Berkeley. They sit on homeless boards, they sit on different, community boards. The mayor's in bed with pretty much Felarca. I mean, it's so polluted. I mean, you can't even wrap your brain around this stuff.
Yeah.
And so here's poor Kyle, who looked out in the best interest of people, human life, and they're trying to sit there and put him down. So I can't, I'm just asking people to sit there and keep an open mind and do your facts, do your research. So that's all I can do.
And they're trying to make an example out of him, and in a sense, he's like the sacrificial lamb. I mean, they're trying to make an example out of him, and
right. And BAMN and Antifa, they would love that. They would love to sit there and say, look, I mean, right now Yvette Felarca's just reeling in this because she's like, oh, look, I've got a restraining order against the Berkeley College Republicans,
Yeah.
And so she's spinning that out like, oh, look at me, I'm the victim. The victim is that Collins, the victim card.
Right.
So she's got this restraining order, and she's sitting there telling the press, oh, poor me, I've got the validation between her getting a restraining order against Trow Worden.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Love Troy, sorry, buddy, but seriously, two different worlds here.
Yeah.
And spinning that out there, the victim thing, you guys got to see through this. You have to sit there and look at this whole picture.
Yeah, for sure.
Kyle Chapman may have made mistakes, may have done stuff. He was the change that he wanted to see in the world. He's the change that we wanted to see in the world. It's the thing is that the police simply, the police for whatever reason, perhaps, from political commands, wouldn't do their job. I was assaulted. Numerous other people were assaulted. I watched permanent brain damage go down, which is the reason I got involved. And so, when you're faced with that, you're faced with two terrible choices: to either act and put yourself at risk, or to let others take the blows, to take the brunt, to take the injuries, especially when they're less robust. Kyle stood up, stepped up, and acted in the best way he thought possible. And again, the police still weren't there to protect people from things. It's a Sophie's choice, I suppose.
Yeah.
But what choice is there? To stand back, to let Kitty Genovese be stabbed to death in the '60s case in New York,
Yeah.
or to stand up.
Yeah, and it's like beyond any means. Yvette Felarca, her organization is beyond any means necessary, guys.
By any means necessary, yeah.
Right. Necessary.
So
Right.
let's not lose sight of that, okay? Because
Right.
that's her credo. And here's Kyle. Doesn't have a credo like that. He really doesn't.
Right.
He was out there to help people, so.
Right, and I noticed that on March 4th, and again, this is spontaneously, I guess the alpha males of the group were huddled together, and they started talking about, doesn't matter what the color of your skin is. I don't judge a man by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. And halfway through, some other people just started joining in and speaking. And by the way, they're quoting Martin Luther King Jr. in Martin Luther King Jr. Civic Center Park before they're getting attacked by a group named BAMN, which takes their phrase from Malcolm X, who had an opposing point of view to Martin Luther King Jr. by any means necessary. It's just, it sounds like a fictional story. The symbology just lines up perfectly. It's amazing.
I know, and Yvette Felarca works at the middle school.
Right,
you know?
yes. Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah, that's right. There's that aspect too. It's amazing. It's like, who writes this stuff?
I see. It's crazy.
I mean, it's like it's written by somebody who's got their tongue firmly in their cheek. It's a David Lynch movie here.
Oh, there's some bombs going on in Berkeley, let me tell you. I'm sure. He's from Oregon. He is a Christian. He is very peaceful. I've known him. I've met him. He's not some goofball label. This is, once again, they're trying to sit there and label him.
Yeah.
I believe this is going to be a great, freedom of speech thing, and I'll be there as well. So.
Great.
He showed the true spirit of Christ on the August 27th rally when he marched in there, hands in the air, to declare himself as nonviolent,
Yep.
to try to have dialogue,
Yep.
and was with sticks, was met with fists, and met with the same kinds of things I've seen. But everyone saw that there's no such thing as peace and no such thing as dialogue when they stand down and do that kind of stuff. So
Yes.
I managed to get that off. I'll be there, and again, I reiterate, I like to live. I have no death wish, and so if anything was to happen to me, that is not my doing.
Yes.
So I'm not going to take anything that could make my heart rate go crazy. It talks. I'm totally clean. So
Right. Nobody here is suicidal.
Correct. On the
Gotcha.
record.
Yeah. Let's see here. And by the way, Colin, I caught some on somebody's live stream. I believe it was Angelique Castaneda's live stream with you talking with some people. And I love the fact that you say to people, look, you can change my mind. You can change my mind with, I don't know the words he actually used, but, pretty much to the effect of, with a logical and factual based argument, you could change my mind. And that's the thing that is probably perhaps the most challenging to many people, to hear that. Because they take that as what's that?
No, yeah, I issue the challenge to socialists. If a socialist wants to get me on their side, by all means, break down socialism for me. I know a fair amount about it. I had a teacher who grew up under Mao that I have talked to, and I was learning Chinese from. But maybe I missed something. I'm happy to learn more. But all I ask is you bring an open mind, and I bring an open mind, and no one should open each other's heads with sticks
Right.
or bike locks.
Right. Because open minds and open head wounds are not a good combination, are they? As
Yeah.
you said.
I'd love to hear that. Milo asked for a debate with Yvette Felarca.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that would happen.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit there and hold out hope for that still.
Or Troy and Felarca. We still have the challenge out there. It's still out there.
It's existing. Absolutely, Troy will be more than happy to sit there and debate Yvette Felarca.
You have to be 100 feet away because of the restraining
I know,
order.
right? Now we've got,
Well, they could do a video chat thing.
It's probably why she did it, because then she'd have to get out of the debate.
I forgot about that. Yeah, by the way, folks, I'm going to put a link for that video if you don't already know. Troy has issued an official challenge to Yvette Felarca to debate. And, of course, this was turned down, but that's just the way it goes. And that's another collectivist thing. A lot of these people on the left, they are so afraid to debate because they're afraid that they'll say the wrong thing. It seems. That's what it seems like to me. It's just they're afraid to say the wrong thing. Whereas, people on the right or classical liberals or whatever, they speak for themselves. readily so.
Yeah, it's like mind control. It's mind control. All they know is that stupid chant over and over again, and you sit there and you look them in the eye and you go face to face it. Tell me why, and they sit there and they just like their eyes just divert. Like the controller tells you if somebody you, do not engage them.
Yeah.
Look up.
Well,
Look
also, Tim Pool caught this on video in I'm not sure, but it's the time this summer in California where Bay Spartan made his debut as being on the other side, whatever event that was, somewhere in California, I forget where. Yeah. He actually caught the people with, on the protester side. They actually were saying through the megaphone, "Do not talk to them." She literally was saying that. Mm-hmm. So there you go. That's the smoking gun.
It's mind control. It's mind control. If people like me, an ex-California Democrat, get to those people, they know they're done. Because it's like you people are being brainwashed, and let's sit and talk.
Yeah.
It's controlling. They're controlling them. It's a cult. It is absolute cult. I can't emphasize this enough. If these people can't freedom of speech, I mean, you can't sit there and go into their meetings on a public park to listen to them. To listen to what they have to say,
right?
And they won't engage you. Red flag. Hello.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
I just one thing that's even more absurd. It's just one of the most absurd things. The left out here is continuously say that they're afraid of being doxxed or having their identity exposed. I've been doxxed as a Trump voter in the Bay Area. It was 95,000 voted for Trump. In Alameda County, it was 516,000, I believe. I was looking at the details today. Voted for Hillary, and probably a lot more just stayed home because they realized the result would be so overwhelming. The very idea of you being exposed publicly and not getting you fired for being a Democrat or a Hillary Clinton supporter or any of that stuff is absurd. The only thing that's going to get you fired is you being violent or doing abhorrent, repulsive, repugnant things. These are what's going to get you fired. And if you're that scared of that kind of stuff, if I'm willing to stand up against, the vast majority of people that disagree with me and have led to, disemployment. I know several people that have been disemployed for their political backing or their advocacy. If I can stand for that, you have no leg to stand on for being afraid of being doxxed, because they're just going to confirm that you're one of the normal people that lives out here. So they can continue to claim victimhood.
Yeah, and in fact, for them to be doxxed really would be just a form of virtue signaling.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You're just going to score points with society.
Yeah.
So
confirmed good person over here that that thinks the right thoughts and does votes for the right people and supports the right causes. If anything, that should be a form of advertisement.
Yeah, it's funny today. I was watching one of the live streams, and it's like, and they're getting so annoyed because people are coming into their their playing ground. People that they're not used to. They're accustomed to the same players.
Right.
But people from documentaries are coming over internationally to sit there and cover this hot mess here in Berkeley, and I just love it because it's like the Antifa or BAMN used to sit there and be so like, we're going to take a picture of you. That was such an intimidating picture of you. Right. And now, take a picture. People are like, take a picture. Fine, here I am, posing. It's like, that doesn't work anymore. We're done with your nonsense. We're awake. We're alive. And we're not going to take it anymore.
Yeah.
Like I told them, put my picture out. Put me out. I don't care. I'd love people more in the San Jose, South Bay area. So I told them that, and then they left me alone. So bring
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely.
I'll have a beer and I'll have a dinner with someone that's pro or anti that wants to discuss something. If they want to discuss, MAGA agenda, great. If they want to discuss socialism, great. Right, I don't have anything to hide. Is the issue. There's nothing no skeletons of the kinds of views I have. I'm not some crypto fascist as I'm continuously accused of.
Yeah.
I believe in in people being free and greater economic opportunity for people. I just happen to believe that that the president we're under is actually going to bring greater economic opportunity than under Hillary Clinton. And if, no one wants to hear me out on that from the other side. It's just epistemic closure.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, and so by diffusing, so people don't get intimidated by them when they're big cameras getting right in your. It used to be they take pictures from a distance. Now they're like right in your face, like. And it's like, so what? Take,
Yeah.
you're 2 inches away from my nostril. Whatever. I don't care. Keep going.
Right, and the doxing thing is silly. Like Antifa, after Tabitha poked the hornet's nest, they started doxing us, and it's like part of what they did was. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was just hearing weird clicks. Part of what they did is they put out photos that we have in our Facebook photo section there, and it's like us in sort of scantily clad goth club wearing stuff, or the Tabitha's dressed like a belly dancer in one of them, and whatever, And they put it out there as if that's going to hurt us somehow, but it's like, wait, these are the photos we want to share with the world, so what? And this is interesting. They did the same thing that what happened to me maybe about 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I was getting into an online argument with a bunch of white supremacists, and they took some of my photos and they shared it all over as if to say, ha ha ha, look at this, goth FAG, ha ha ha, look at this guy, as if that was going to make me mad. And I expect that from far-right people. I expect people just try to shame you, be like, oh, look at this guy, he's wearing leather pants and he goes out to the clubs, right? I expect that from a far right-wing person. But then the shaming coming from the far left about the same stuff is pretty hypocritical now, isn't it?
I thought slut shaming was not supposed to be a thing from the left, right?
Right.
No, it's
exactly.
Like, oh, I'm sex positive. If you can wear leather pants and pull them off, more power to you. I get really hot in them, and going clubbing in them just sounds like a miserable experience to me. But if you have the ventilation to make that work, more power to you.
Well, I don't know anymore, but when I was a younger guy. But yeah, it's interesting, and slut shaming. It's like, okay, certain rules go out the window because they're like, okay, I could be racist against white people. I can slut shame people as long as they're the wrong kind of person. This stuff that's going on, what I call the anti-free speech movement, it is acting as a unifying force between people on both sides of the aisle. So like I find myself saying the following often. I think I'm more left-wing than right-wing. I'm certainly more libertarian than collectivist or authoritarian. But I find myself aligning with people who are on the other side, simply because we agree on things that are, to me, far more important than the things that divide us. And when it comes to just, if an innocent person's getting attacked, unjustly, I don't care what their politics is, justice is justice. And that's the thing that we lose, or not we, but a lot of people, I don't know about you folks, but I spend way too much time online trying to convince people who are unreasonable to be reasonable. And I find myself often saying, whatever happened to principle? Why is it all tribal? What happened to the principle of, let's just say, intellectual honesty? Now, I'm one of these people where I don't know enough about politics to know if I agree with Trump's policies and etc. Let's say I just don't like Trump as a man. I'm not going to go along with this bullshit that everybody's saying. Okay, it's sort of the emperor wears no clothes in reverse, okay? Everybody, rather than saying the emperor wears these fabulous clothes, whereas he's naked, everybody's saying that he's goose-stepping around in a Nazi uniform when he's not. And it's just everybody's agreeing to go along with the lie. Just like in the story of the emperor wears no clothes, everybody's virtue signaling to each other, oh yeah, his clothes are great. I see his clothes are great. And everybody's saying the same thing. Now it's like, I think he's a Nazi. Yeah, I do too. I think he's more of a Nazi than you think he is, And that's what's going on here. But I'm not going to be one of those people. I may or may not agree with him, but I'm not going to just say, oh yeah, he's a Nazi. Sure, yeah, like me too. It's just absolute garbage. So, to bring it back around to principles, whatever happened to principles? I want to thank you very much, both of you, for talking with me. I do want to pick your brains about other things in the future, if that's possible, especially about February 1st and other stuff like that. But I want to thank you very much for talking with me and for my audience and for everything that you guys do for, if we can call it a movement, whatever this is, these efforts to stave off this anti-civil rights movement that we see in the United States. I want to thank you both for doing that, for putting your bodies on the line, your reputations on the line, for putting yourselves out there, your continuous efforts to fight. You guys are great, and thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you for all you do, Justin, because like I said, you do amazing work against, anti-Antifa, and you're on my radar, so I'm like, I love your stuff. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Justin, thank you so much.
I look forward to talking with you in the future. Have a great night.